Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, former President Donald Trump has his running mate for this year's election, and it's someone with an Eastern Kentucky connection. And a federal judge has dismissed the classified documents case against the former president.
Temperatures today were in the mid-90s, and that trend will continue for tomorrow, but it is going to cool down. I'll tell you when in a few minutes.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Former President Donald Trump has announced who his running mate will be in this year's election, and he has ties to Eastern Kentucky. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance was announced this afternoon as the vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump in his bid for president. Vance was born in Ohio, but his maternal grandparents had relocated there from Eastern Kentucky. In his best-selling book, Hillbilly Elegy, Vance talked about visiting family in the Breathitt County area during the summers. Well, not long ago, members of the Democratic National Committee provided a statement in response to Vance being picked as Trump's running mate. Quote, "This is the most consequential election of our lifetimes, and with Donald Trump's decision today to add J.D. Vance to the Republican ticket, the stakes of this election just got even higher. J.D. Vance embodies MAGA with an out-of-touch extreme agenda and plans to help Trump force his Project 2025 agenda on the American people," unquote. Much more about Trump's VP pick later on the CBS Evening News. The head of the Department of Homeland Security is facing questions about how the Secret Service allowed a gunman to get within shooting distance of former President Donald Trump at Saturday's campaign rally in western Pennsylvania. One man in the crowd was killed, the former president and two others were hurt. CBS's Masa Saidi is in Butler, Pennsylvania, with the latest on the investigation.
CBS News has confirmed that on the day of the assassination attempt, the shooter purchased a box of ammunition with 50 rounds. He fired from the rooftop of a building about 400 feet from the stage. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, whose department oversees the Secret Service, fielded questions Monday about how the gunman was able to get that close before Secret Service counter-snipers shot and killed him.
An independent review will be conducted to understand the facts regarding protection of the event and make findings and recommendations accordingly.
President Trump's ear was grazed by a bullet. Two other people were hurt. 57-year-old Marine veteran David Dutch and 74-year-old James Copenhaver. Both are now in stable condition. Retired Fire Chief Corey Comparatori was fatally shot.
He was a man that was full of love.
The FBI identified the shooter as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Investigators say they found rudimentary bomb materials at his home and in his vehicle. Neighbors say they saw nothing out of the ordinary.
We have nothing to share to make some logic out of something that's completely illogical. They were very friendly.
Law enforcement sources say the rifle found on the shooter's body was legally purchased by his father well before the attack. So far, investigators believe Crooks acted alone and the motive remains unknown. He was a registered Republican but did make a $15 donation to a progressive organization in 2021, according to the Federal Election Commission. Masa Saidi, CBS News, Butler, Pennsylvania.
The chairman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee announced it will hold a hearing next week with the U.S. Secret Service director on the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Leaders throughout Kentucky are continuing to voice their concerns following the assassination attempt. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg spoke at the Muhammad Ali Airport. He was there with White House officials to speak on upgrades to the airport's infrastructure thanks to federal government funding.
I think it was a sad day for America. And again, I'm hopeful that maybe finally, this might be the wake-up call that our entire country needs to lower the temperature, to listen and learn from one another, to start engaging and have real dialogue about the issues, even when we may vehemently disagree. Because I truly believe that deep down, we all do want the same goals.
We'll have more in-state reaction about this, including from Senator Rand Paul and Congressman Hal Rogers, coming up at 6. It's not just U.S. leaders continuing to react to the assassination attempt this past weekend, but leaders across the globe are expressing their opinions as well. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gave his thoughts about the possibility of Donald Trump being voted in as president once again. Zelensky says Ukraine is not afraid of Trump potentially becoming the next U.S. president.
I
think that if Mr. Donald Trump becomes president, we will work. I'm not afraid of this. Ukraine, we are in a war, we are emotional, and when there is uncertainty, and indeed the Republican Party is different, but I want to tell you that the majority of the Republican Party supports Ukraine and the people of Ukraine.
Rapper 50 Cent is still scheduled to perform at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee this week. That's according to a person familiar with the plans. But a Trump campaign official said today they did not know if the rapper's performance had been confirmed. Last month, 50 Cent told reporters on Capitol Hill he thought black men in America were identifying with Trump. A federal judge has dismissed the classified documents case against Donald Trump. In a ruling, Judge Eileen Cannon said the appointment of the special counsel in the case, Jack Smith, violated the Constitution. Judge Cannon criticized the special counsel's role for usurping the important legislative authority of Congress. Smith had charged Trump of mishandling top secret documents after leaving the White House, accusing Trump of endangering national security. Donald Trump's former White House strategist is asking the full D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals to review his contempt of Congress conviction. Steve Bannon is serving a 4-month prison sentence for defying a congressional subpoena. He reported to prison earlier this month. In court filings today, Bannon's attorneys asked the federal appeals court to overturn a precedent that limited the defenses Bannon was able to use during his trial.
We had highs today in the mid-90s, and now we're dealing with a stray shower or two across portions of eastern Kentucky. Here's the latest with live pinpoint Doppler radar, seeing a little bit of a stray shower towards portions of Pike County over into portions of Floyd County. Earlier, Wise County and Letcher County had a nice little thunderstorm push through. That has since dissipated. The good news is right now no lightning is being picked up at this time. We have a mixture of sun and clouds out there with temperatures in the 90s from Moorhead down to Irvine. Somerset's at 95. Monticello's at 94, same story in London and Manchester. We're at 93 in Hazard, then 80s from Clintwood over towards the Wise area. But you factor in that feels like temperature, the heat and the humidity and the dew point, it's just sticky no matter how you slice and dice it. 111 in Monticello, 101 in Somerset, 99 in London, 100 in Harlan, 102 in Ashland, 96 in Pikeville, 93 in Hazard. So when you wake up in the morning, we'll see temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s. We will stay mainly clear across the area. A little bit of patchy fog is not out of the question. Now coming up in the first alert forecast, we have one more day of temperatures in the mid-90s, and then there's a nice cool down coming up, and we'll tell you exactly when that is in a few minutes. Steve.
All right, Eric, thank you. In central Kentucky, crews are working to clean up a car fire in a Lexington neighborhood. It happened a little before 3 p.m. on Cantrell Drive off the Eastland Parkway. The Lexington fire chief says a car hit a tree and caught fire. The vehicle sustained major damage from the flames, but the driver was not hurt. No other cars were involved. The man being charged with a deadly stabbing at the Friendship House in Louisville has another court date. Kenneth Muse is expected back in court on July 29th for his arraignment. He's facing charges for the murder of Brenda Kemp that happened on May 15th. Muse signed in as a visitor and even called 911 to report the stabbing. He had been out on parole since 2019 for a previous murder conviction that happened back in 1975. A Madison County woman is recovering 2 weeks after she was found shot in her front yard as her home burned down. Nancy Irwin was found with a life-threatening gunshot wound on June 29th. Her sister-in-law, Larissa, says she's undergone 2 surgeries since, and there's a chance she'll need more. Larissa says Nancy was shot by Jerry Thigpen, who later set the home on fire and was found dead inside.
She's lost everything. Like, there's nothing left. And just trying to pick up the pieces and where do you go from here?
Now, according to her sister station, court records show Nancy tried to get an EPO against Thigpen back in May. It was later dismissed. She tried to evict Thigpen in February of this year. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, around 3/4 of both Gen Z and millennials in a survey said they chase credit card rewards. The benefits and drawbacks of doing that.
And in the world of weather, we have one more day of temperatures in the 90s. The thunderstorm chances will increase, and then we're going to cool off substantially. We'll talk about that in the First Alert forecast in a few minutes. Stay with us.